Who are you?
I'm Daredevil.
Well, hello everyone, and hope you're having a great day. It's been a while since I've done Agree or Disagree the podcast. It is I, Kevin Olenick. You can add me as a friend on Facebook, Kevin Olenick. Follow me on Twitter at KEVOLE, like Agree or Disagree the podcast on Facebook. All podcasts are on Spreaker.com, KEVOLE. You can also subscribe, although we're doing a rebranding on YouTube, Kevin Olenick. Also, rebranding coming on Instagram, KVOLE, but you can also subscribe on iTunes, Agree or Disagree, the podcast. And we are here to review, probably it's fair to say, one of Netflix's most popular shows. It's hard to argue that it's not. In terms of the Marvel series, certainly probably the best and most popular, and has done very well, and has certainly did the reclamation project that was the disaster of the earlier movie with Ben Affleck and Jennifer Garner. We are speaking of season 3 of Daredevil, which just dropped a couple last week. So this is going to be spoiler-filled. We are going to get into all of the nuances, all of the things that happened, what's to go next, because there actually is a lot to talk about in terms of what's going on with Marvel, because they also announced the cancellation this month. Last week they announced the cancellation of Luke Cage, and the week before the cancellation of the Iron Fist series. What does that mean? Not only for Luke Cage, Iron Fist, but the possible series The Daughters of the Dragon, which has been talked about a little bit. What does that mean for the quote-unquote Defenders? What does that mean for Jessica Jones and the Punisher? We'll get into that, and we'll get into some of the strength of this series, and where some people are complaining, which I'm going to be honest, I don't understand the complaint about the one particular character, so I'm going to defend her. Defend her. Get it? Defend her. Did you get that, Mitch Milani? That was a really good pun.
Oh, jeez. Is that how we're going to start this review off, Kevin?
No, it's not. But that's from the bottom line view. That is Mitch Milani. Mitch has been watching Marvel stuff not with me directly beside me, but he has been following along. So and has done a couple of other reviews. I have a poll out on Twitter right now. Let's start here. What is your favorite Daredevil series? Was it season 1, season 2, or season 3?
Kevin, for me, that's an easy answer. Season 3 is the best season of Daredevil. And I know that some people will say it might be season 2 or season 1, but to me this was the most consistent season through and through, and I think overall they brought it to a new level. You know, when we see some of these great movies, a lot of the times it's the second movie of a series that is the best because they're able to build off the first movie and what they did really well in the first movie, and then the second movie kind of nails it, and then the third movie goes downhill a lot of times. But in Daredevil, for this TV series so far, man, they've upped it every single time, in my opinion. I do slightly like season 1 a little bit more than season 2. People may disagree with me there, but I actually tweeted earlier on this week when I finished the series that Daredevil season 3 isn't just the best season I've seen of any superhero show, but it might be the best thing I've seen from the superhero genre in terms of drama. So I think that's how highly I speak of this season. So I'm very excited to talk about it.
Yeah, it is really tough. Season 1 was really about the origin story of where Daredevil came from. It really took us in a new direction because it was very gritty. It was really dark. And it felt even a little bit different than what Marvel was doing overall. And it, of course, had the incredible moment of Daredevil going through those rooms to get that boy out. Daredevil Season 2 introduced us to a number of different things. It introduced us to the Punisher. It introduced us to Electra. It was really a catalyst for 2 other series. Quite frankly, it was the catalyst for the Punisher, and it was the catalyst for the Defenders. And then Defenders was really Daredevil 2.5 because it's mostly the focus on the Daredevil character, not so much everything else. Daredevil Season 3, I think, takes us to another level with the Wilson Fisk and introduced us to the character of Bullseye, which I think is going to be a very fascinating character, what they're going to do going forward because of the way they ended that. For me, what I think the thing that I liked the start is it's really started. It was darker than the first 2 at the start. It just in a really different, really bitter place. They took Matt Murdock to a very bitter place. This was a guy that was like really angry at the world. He didn't even want to be Matt Murdock. He wanted to be referred as Daredevil. Just a really deeply angry human being that started us off. And of course, it also starts off, and again, this is a spoiler podcast, it starts us off how Daredevil survived the Midland Circle crash. They did something brilliant there too, because they didn't tell us what happened with Electra, which we can get into a little bit later. But what did you think of how they started this?
I loved it. I always like these arcs of superheroes at their lowest, or like characters in general. Those stories, for me, always seem to resonate with me because I feel like it's very relatable in life, and just seeing like even these characters that are so high and mighty, these characters with these powers, these characters with these abilities or whatever it may be. Like my favorite stories from, or favorite movies or whatever from other characters in the superhero genre, like Batman or Spider-Man or other superheroes like this, even other movies in general, I always find these stories to be really, really well done. And I just think it takes it to a new level in terms of connecting the main character, Matt Murdock, to the audience. We get to see a little bit more into his past, which I really liked. We got to see just his bitterness and his flaws in a way that we haven't seen as deeply into as we did, in the first couple of seasons. We saw that it was there, and we saw that this guy obviously had some flaws, but in season 3, I thought they took it to a new level, that this guy is clearly on the line. He might not even be able to be the Daredevil he was before. He might not still have the skills and the fighting ability, and even he might not have the hearing that he used to. He was really down on himself, and we got to see him kind of resurrect back into the Daredevil we know and love, which I really liked, and just seeing that progression from his comeback, so to speak. I really like those stories, so I was fully invested into it.
And I think that it was one of the things that was, you'll get some people that get upset about the swearing in shows, and that's fine. But the way that they used the swearing, I thought was really skillful.
It's very real. I mean, I'm all for swearing in shows because I swear myself. So I feel like, and you don't meet many people that when they're angry and they're mad at the world, they don't swear. That's just from my perspective and view. But I just think it makes it more realistic in the writing and the acting. For him not to get angry like that would be sort of lame to me. Yeah. So, I feel like it just brings a realism to it, and it just seeing Matt Murdock like that, I thought was something new that they brought. I know a lot of people, and actually another review I was on, a couple of the guys said that they didn't see Daredevil go quite as far as they wanted to see him go a little bit farther in terms of taking that a little bit, even pushing the line more, which I don't know. That's debatable to me, just to see him like maybe beat the crap out of somebody or do something where he's almost killing someone, because I know a lot of the story early on was that he wanted to kill Wilson Fisk, and he was on the verge of killing someone, which is like one of his rules he can't do. So I don't know. You could debate that, whether that was well done or not. I felt like it was. And I felt like they did nail the aspect of him being kind of angry at the world.
Well, it's interesting because it was even the specific words that he used, because he was using "goddamn" a lot. That was the one that I heard more than anything else. It was really the specific words that he was using, and I think it was like to those that wanted him to go further. I would argue that this was his inner struggle was the conscious of going there, because
it's the thought, Kev. I think of him thinking that he has the capability of doing this, and that frightens him in itself, I think.
Yeah. And there was throughout the series, there was really a lot of internal struggles with him, dealing with some of the things. You're right about his ability. He there's a fight we'll get into later that he questioned if he could win, but yet he always ended up going back to the church. And I think that there was a fight within his conscience of what he could and could not do. And I think that somewhere along the line we know where that was, and
I think, Kev, like a big part of this season was his struggle with religion, because we know more than any other superhero, I would say, that Daredevil is probably the most religious.
Yes.
So I think that was a very cool aspect of his character that we got to see a little bit more of, and his kind of fight with God, and just his unwillingness to, I don't want to say like let go of God, but he started to question God a lot in the first few episodes. And I really like that struggle because it's very unique to his character, and it was interesting to watch. And I think like that a lot of that anger came from God, and his like anger with God himself. So it's interesting, whether you thought that they should have went further with that, whether they did enough, or maybe they took it too far. I don't know. I feel like a lot of people are on either side, but
I thought it went the right way. I don't think that because of who he is, he's pushing a certain line, and I think it's interesting. Even in season 2, the whole battle that he had with the Punisher was that same line. He's always going to be on that line, and I think that you have to be careful not to take him too far. Well, though they may do it in the next couple of seasons, they may do it, but
and I think the common thread, Kev, is that we've seen him kind of, because he's on that line, we always see the constant struggle, which I think, that just for an example, I don't think that Spider-Man Homecoming did a good enough job of kind of showing the love and hate relationship between New York and Spider-Man, which is a big part of the character for me. While in Daredevil, they do a great job of the love and hate relationship with Daredevil. And even during this season, you see Daredevil turn into the villain. Yeah. So I think in every season, this has been a thread throughout. I mean, they have Daredevil be a villain at times to the people. They have him be a hero. There's a constant questioning of what Daredevil is, and I think that adds another layer to psychologically in our minds as viewers, as saying, what this character is going through in his mind, because he is questioning whether he wants to kill Wilson Fisk or kill somebody in his path, and how that's going to change him. And while they're also kind of nailing us with this Daredevil could be the villain, maybe he's not a great guy, maybe he's not the savior, maybe he's not the hero that we think he is. So I think they do an excellent job of that overall.
And let's the other side of that is trying to be God, and I think that, like, with a lot of the other themes, and this leads me to the portrayal of Wilson Fisk, which is just, I mean, he's probably, I would have to say he's in he's got to be one of the top villains of this Netflix series. Like, I mean, I loved we'll get into this a little bit later, but I love the portrayal of Alfred Woodward's villain in Luke Cage, and of course, it's hard not to enjoy David Tennant in season 1 of Jessica Jones. But just in terms of a full-fledged, complete, and I think what they're going to do with Jigsaw and the Punisher is going to be fantastic, but the full-fledged ups and downs of Wilson Fisk, just, like, he looks at sometimes so vulnerable. That, like, there was moments that we saw him in the FBI, and he looked so vulnerable and defeated, and yet there was other times he looked so mighty and in control, and he just... Like, there was a line that said that he was 5 steps ahead of everyone, and they wrote him as if he was 5 steps ahead of everybody else, especially near the final ends when the plan of Wilson Fisk was revealed.
Yeah, they made him feel like, you said, God himself in the series. Like, there was a certain point in the series where I was like, is this even, like, how can you beat this guy? Like, I don't think it's possible. So they did such a great job just to building to that point, and it was not easy to go from season 1 to what he did in season 1, how great he was in season 1, and then bring him back in season 3 and make him even better, and make him even more complex, and make him more just an interesting character. And I almost feel like I could see a 3rd season with this guy as the villain, and I would be right into it. Yeah, I'd be the first in line. This guy, this actor, first off, I can't pronounce his last name.
Vincent D'Onofrio.
Okay, Vincent. I just feel like he's amazing. If he's not at the top of the list for like Marvel villains and villains in the genre, I mean, he's up there. He's fantastic, and I think the biggest thing they do with him is what you said. All great villains, and especially recently, from what we've seen in movies, and in superhero movies especially, is they have a side to them where you don't necessarily feel sorry for them, but you understand them, and you understand, like, there is no, like, pure evil and pure good, I feel like, in villains in modern movies. And I think that's what makes these villains so interesting and compelling, because you could cheer for the villain in certain aspects, and you could understand where they're coming from and why they're doing. And from the villain's point of view, they think they're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest thing with him, and just his acting is phenomenal. Like, I can't get over it. He's a perfect Wilson Fisk.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And I think, I mean, his entire motivation was to reunite with Vanessa, which he was taken away from in season 1, and that was his entire motivation, was to get back to Vanessa. And, you know, it was taken, like, making a deal with the FBI to take out these guys, I want to say the Arabian, the other bad guys. He was taking out other bad guys, but it was really it made the whole controversy. It built a beautiful controversy about having this guy be out, which was a really interesting theme. Why is a guy like this out? But then it turned out that the plan really was that he was in charge of the FBI, or certain aspects of the FBI, and he found ways to dig dirt on everybody to get to the point where he wasn't imprisoned. He actually prisoned everybody else. It was really just a brilliant, slow, long game. And it almost, like, you forgot what he said in season 2 to the Punisher when he talked about, I'm playing the long game. I want you, the Punisher, to get rid of criminals, and I want other people to get rid of criminals because I want to be the one in charge.
He wants to be the Kingpin.
Mm-hmm. And the introduction of the name, the Kingpin, that was really such a great time. Like, it just felt like it wasn't cheesy. It was just like, here he is. We called him. I
popped.
Yeah, it was just a really well done way. And yeah, I mean, you understood his motivation, because anyone would do what he would try what he did. And he even had a moral, what was interesting, he had a moral decision to make when it was at the time he had the chance to get the painting from that lady. Later,
he had multiple decisions where he was on the right side of the decision.
Yeah.
Like even the one with Karen.
Yes.
Where Karen basically like verbally abuses him.
Yeah.
And then he restrains himself, even though he could have squashed her right there.
Yeah.
Like what he maybe used to do or could have done, he decides not to. And then, like you said, with the painting, where we see the differences between him and Bullseye, which I'm sure we'll get into. But just one more thing I want to bring up about Wilson Fisk and the character is he had no weakness except for his motivation, which was Vanessa. And once we saw Vanessa enter the picture, that's when his weaknesses became apparent, right? Because that was his one weakness. He cared too much about Vanessa, and basically that's how he was going to be defeated. If Vanessa was never in the picture, there would have been no possible way to defeat this man. It would have not been possible. But with Vanessa, then it gives him a weakness, and it basically makes his character, more believable, and all around it just super compelling. I know people, another interesting point from the other review I did was just that the guys thought that maybe they felt that Fisk towards the end of the series or towards the end of the season was a little bit too soft. And I was like, well, that was the whole point, was that, he was vulnerable to Vanessa, and that was the whole point of his character, and the reason why he was going through all these events is to get Vanessa back, and that was his weakness.
And it almost it clouded his judgment. But I mean, his development of the rage, I mean, sort of similar to season 1 where he whacks the guy with the truck, and in this case we get the jacket scene later in the season. We take off your jacket. The guy weird request. And even as a viewer, I'm like, what he's going to do. He's going to
I was like, we saw that coming a million miles away.
It's like, wow. And it's just, and he goes back to his kind of this Zen-like thing, and almost like nothing happens. But it's going to be interesting to see. Like, you can't go on. It's hard to go with this series without Kingpin anymore. And I think that the way that they ended that, we'll get into that a little bit later, I think sets up for some really interesting stuff.
I do want to say just this suggestion maybe to Marvel, you need to bring this guy in for Spider-Man.
Yeah, well...
I think it would be amazing if they had a whole, Sinister Six plot, and then at the end of the movie, it's Kingpin the whole time. Just saying.
We'll get into the Spider-Man aspect of it because a little bit later, because I think there's some really interesting things that they can do, and I think there's some really interesting things that they're deciding to do as well. But we'll because there are certainly some options. There's two controversial characters. We'll get into this one now because we already talked a little bit about her, and I'm going to defend her because I feel like Karen is one of the most misunderstood characters in the Defenders genre. She's classified as annoying, but I think even when we saw her backstory and where she came from, you can understand why she is who she is. She acts tough at times. At other times, she acts weak because I think that she doesn't know who she is, and I think that that's part of the journey of Karen. And in the comics, and they teased this a little bit, she does get into a drug addiction. They did tease this a little bit in the series. They didn't.
And in the comics, she actually dies.
Yeah.
Like Bullseye kills her.
Yeah.
Which is interesting that didn't happen in the season.
Well, I think that there probably was a couple of there was probably a couple of reasons for that because they didn't get into the drug thing here with Karen, but her scene with Wilson Fisk, that I thought was another one. It was just like when she admits that she killed Wesley in season 1, and tried to get him to rage, and it was like later she realizes that wasn't the best, but like she had some really powerful moments, even with Maggie, even with Foggy a little bit later, even when she sees Matt Murdock the first time. We saw a really good, powerful duality to her that I felt that Karen. I actually did not mind Karen in this series.
I like Karen, and because I think I got to explain that because I think a lot of people don't like Karen. The biggest reason I like Karen is because I think she brings a lot of the drama to the series that I really enjoy. Personally, I don't know. I find that her character kind of, it just, I don't know how to really explain it, but it's just like she's always in these situations that I think bring out a lot of drama to the series. I also like the fact that she's very, she's always willing to do the right thing. And she's always trying to push the line, even though she knows she can't stand up for herself that well. She always has her gun in her purse. And she's always trying to, like, find out the truth. And she puts herself in these situations that often force her to be the damsel in distress, which I think a lot of people don't like. But I also think it brings a lot of the just drama and where the series is at its best, I feel like, is when those moments are happening and the mystery is going on. And I feel like she's in the middle of all those moments. So to me, I like her. And I even liked the solo episode of her, the Karen episode. I enjoyed that episode because I thought it gave us a lot more of an in-depth look at what her character was before we met her in season 1. And I think that was really needed. And I'd honestly welcome a Foggy episode similar to that as well. I know we've seen a lot of Foggy from flashbacks from season 2 with Matt Murdock, but I'd like to see sort of more of it. I always welcome those episodes because it just makes you, as someone that likes TV shows for the characters and likes TV shows to dive into what the characters' lives are like and stuff like that and their motivations, I felt like I really enjoyed that episode. I don't know about you, Kev.
I didn't hate it. It wasn't like, to me, it wasn't like the Stranger Things episode, separate episode.
Yeah, that was weird,
but I actually like that Stranger Things episode. But I really thought it laid a foundation of where Karen is and was, because even like they talked a lot about it. Like earlier, before we go back there, she has a conversation with her dad, and her dad says you will always do the right thing. And, you know, I think that episode allowed to question us, what was the right thing? Did she do the right thing back then? Because she made a lot of poor choices, and even was leaving the right choice, or should she have stayed? Or she drove drunk, which led to the death of her brother. Just really allowed us to see that she is a vulnerable person that has had trouble making choices, but yet she's finding that way. And even, you know, her entire choice, her relationship with the newspaper when he demanded that she reveal who Daredevil was, and she didn't do it. She's just, I think she's got a lot more gray area in her that I think, you know, she's not like the other women that we have in the Marvel. She's not Misty Knight. She's not Colleen Wing, in that she's going to fight back with her fists, but she's going to use her brain in a powerful way. She's like a sister in some way. Like, not that the others aren't, but there's something like, no, I
understand what you're saying.
She's not even a damsel in distress. I think that she's one of the normal people in a universe that doesn't have a lot of normal people.
Yeah.
Foggy, I really enjoyed the Foggy story.
I think Foggy was one of the brightest spots of this season.
Yeah, I think they brought Foggy to a really strong level here, to the point that I'm almost a little concerned what they're going to do with him, because they almost bringing him back to the Murdoch feels like it's an old Foggy, but I really liked what his courage to stand up, his brains, because he kind of was he was the one that was sort of figuring out Fisk's plan all along. His ability to stand up as a to vote for district attorney. There was a confidence by him by the end of the episode that I really, really enjoyed. And you're right. I think that there's some room that you can do with Foggy in a number of different ways, and even in a number of different series. He's a guy that you can transport in 2 or 3 different series, and he's not out of place. He would not be out of place in Jessica Jones. He would not be out of place in The Punisher, and he wouldn't be out of place in any other Marvel show that comes up. He just fits.
Yeah, I think something we saw from Foggy this season was more of just his balls.
Yeah.
Like, you saw him kind of just, that toughness and edge sort of came to his character, and just the confidence. In the first couple of seasons, I thought we saw Foggy was sort of, not exactly the strongest character. And it felt like he was always a weakness. But now it really truly feels like Foggy is like a strength to the show. And it feels like he is he's on the same level as Matt Murdock in terms of what he can bring to solving a case or helping Daredevil or whatever it may be. He can't do it with his fists, but he always finds these creative ways. He always comes up with new things. He'll try to maneuver himself in the best position to help. And I feel like he's kind of put himself on that same level where it's not like, oh, Daredevil's just carrying his best friend along for the ride.
Yeah. This was like, yeah, we're an actual partnership, which is good. So I'm really interested in what they're going to do with Foggy. Maybe they change that name. One of my favorite moments of this season was when Wilson Fisk the car trips. Fisk is trapped. It looks like it's.
Yeah,
and then you see the first little, and it was so brilliant how they did it too, Mitch, because it was just a simple convict, and you didn't I looked at him, I'm like, he looks familiar.
Yeah, because you had no idea this guy was capable of that before.
Yeah, and then
it just came out of nowhere.
It was just like, and then you started, then the music played, and then everything he was just being hit. And Convict was the introduction of Poindexter, which is, of course, Bullseye. And I loved what they did with this guy. I loved the fact that this was
so compelling the whole time. He was on the edge of snapping someone's neck every time he was in a room with somebody. Like, I was like, holy crap, is he going to kill this person? Like, every time he was, like, talking to somebody. But it was just creepy.
Yeah, and, like, no social skills whatsoever, but, he had some particular...
But you also felt bad for him in a way.
Yeah, you did, especially... especially with what he was dealing with the FBI and some of the things that happened before. And then when he he bows down to the Kingpin, just that whole...
but you also understand why he does that.
Yeah.
Because they lay the foundation for basically, what did they call it? His North Star?
Yes.
Yeah, so basically, he's in search of this person who can understand him and understand his issues and understand his problems. And then the Kingpin is actually such a similar character in a lot of ways that from his childhood that it just makes a lot of sense, and it kind of meshes together, and it makes sense why he would sort of be the younger brother to Wilson Fisk.
Yeah, and there was a tightening of that relationship as they went on, and that relationship was so interesting because he really did take away he took the big North Star away was Julie, which was an important character, and then took that away, and then you just saw the continued demise, and then the realization later on that it was Fisk that killed Julie, and that was a really creepy scene when he comes into the wedding with Julie, like the frozen body of Julie. That was so creepy, just as Daredevil. But it was like you understood him, and it was interesting. Even goes back to some of the Daredevil Matt Murdock's choices, because really he was I think there was a point where I read that he wasn't the guy that was going to kill Wilson Fisk. He couldn't do it, but it was possible that he could get Poindexter to do it.
Yeah.
Which he created a really frightening little that three-way fight at the end, and really sets up Poindexter in a really good position, I think, in terms of villain. But I really enjoyed this. I did not know that he was number 2 to be Captain America. Did you know that?
I didn't know that until you posted that on tweet.
Yeah, he was the
interesting. Captain. I could sort of see it, but
yeah. But it's. I mean, I think he fits so well into this character, and I think it's.
I think just touching on the Bullseye character itself, I think that his character, like Bullseye, brings such an interesting aspect to the action. Yeah. Because he's so, like, he is Bullseye. Like, his ability to throw anything, literally anything. He could throw a teddy bear, and it would hit Daredevil, like, in the face unless he moves at the right, correct time. Like, that one fight in the newsroom was awesome.
Yeah.
The fight in the church was great. Every fight scene he's in with Daredevil is awesome, just because those two characters, like, mesh perfectly together in a fight scene, and it does really well in live action.
Yeah.
So it was really cool to watch a new sort of character with the same sort of background and abilities with Daredevil, but also with an edge on him. Because, like, we've seen, like, stronger versions of Daredevil, like, for example, Electra. Electra basically fights the same style and choreography in terms of the way that they fight, but Electra was stronger in that Defenders series because of what she went through. But then, like, we haven't really seen a character that is stronger than Daredevil in terms of, like, a certain aspect of their fighting. Like, Punisher is very close, but a lot of it was also hand to hand.
Yeah.
And there was no, like, real strong advantage other than he had a gun.
Yeah.
But with Bullseye, it's like, if he is long range or around you in any sort of capacity, he would beat Daredevil. Like, and he beat him down a couple of times in the series. Like, he had the clear advantage on him. So I think it was very interesting from that standpoint. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what they can do with the action and his character moving forward as well.
And he took anything. Like, he took the lights from the apartment and was throwing things. It's so interesting what they can. It's fascinating what they can do. It's almost, you can almost put him in an anti-hero way in some ways, but I'm wondering if they can do that. But there's some interesting things that you could do with the Bullseye character, and of course at the end, we'll talk about the end here in a moment. The other major two major characters I want to touch on is Nadeem.
Yeah. I loved him as well.
Yeah, it was a very interesting journey into a guy that knew his fate at some point. Like, he wanted to do the right thing, couldn't always do the right thing, was in trouble. And it was sort of interesting because they laid the foundation in the first moment that we meet Nadeem, that he's with the FBI agent, and it's like, you're one of those people that could be susceptible to be corrupted, and it turned out that the entire FBI was corrupted, and just sort of the trap and the moral dilemma that this guy was in, and that he couldn't fight out of, but he knew that his fate and the choices he had to make at the end. But it was really an enjoyable. It was a good character. I think that it was a good add to this season, I think.
Yeah, I really liked him because it was like seeing the good character, the pure character, kind of have to do things that he didn't want to do, and then at the end of things, he basically had to kill himself because he knew that was the only way.
Yeah, and
it also showed the strength of Wilson Fisk. It made him a lot stronger character, and you felt bad for him.
Yeah,
and you felt like he never really lost himself, but he was portrayed that way because he had to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think another thing, Kev, just in this series and in this season particularly, is that they always make the characters' motivations in this season completely and 100% justified.
Yeah.
There's no, like, unreasonable thing that any character does. Like, it's always, like, 100%, like, right on, like, what you would probably have to do in that situation.
Yeah, I agree, because he was fighting for his family, and that's, that was the power of what Fisk fought for, is like protecting your family. You want to protect your family, and that's what length would you go to do that? And yeah, it was interesting, and it was, yeah, I didn't know what to expect at the beginning because he wasn't really a known character. But it was really a well-used character for this season. I thought was kind of a good moral compass for us, I think, in terms of the season. And then sort of made the debate about what Foggy does and what Daredevil does at the end, which way would have been better. I think was great. Now, I think underrated is the performance of Vanessa, and almost I would argue she is the actual villain of the series. Let me explain this. Because she, in season 1, was sort of the one that was pushing Wilson Fisk to his Wilson Fisk ways. And it kind of, in a sense, what she does is bring out the weakness in Wilson Fisk, which I think it's not intentionally, I think, try to bring that out, but she's certainly a lot more evil than we give her credit for. And yeah, and almost like what she does is sort of brings out the worst of Wilson Fisk, which leads to the demise often of Wilson Fisk. It's sort of a fascinating relationship, because when you're watching it big picture, it's like, I don't really understand, Wilson, why you love this woman, but in some senses, I really understand why you love this woman, because she's what you kind of crave in a negative sense, but I would argue she's the actual villain of this series. In a lot of ways, because she brings people brings people down to the point that I was partly wondering if she was an FBI, she was undercover FBI. Like, if this is like a plan, if Vanessa's plan is to take down Wilson Fisk. Because she's sitting there at the end. She's watching all of this, and she does not get involved. She does not get involved in the fight with Daredevil, Bullseye, or Poindexter and Fisk. She's watching. She doesn't stop Daredevil from killing Wilson Fisk at any point. It's really fascinating what they've done with Vanessa. It's almost like, what is her real role? Does she really love Wilson Fisk, or is she just in this for
Yeah, it's always tough it's tough to know if she's like a gold digger half the time.
Yeah, what is it, like, because she, like, encourages Poindexter to go, like, she doesn't get angry about Poindexter killing the woman for the picture. She encourages Poindexter to go kill Nadeem. She just pushes Wilson. Yeah, it's just so fascinating to me what her role is. You almost could do a spin-off on what her backstory is too in future seasons.
Yeah, I would be really compelled in that.
Yeah.
I thought they should have done that through the episodes we didn't see her. Because honestly, when we saw her, I mean, the only real hype we got from her was just all the talk that Fisk was talking about her, but we didn't really I feel like even in season 1, we didn't see a lot from her.
Yeah, and
we don't know much about her.
We don't.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I don't know, because I think it's actually a good thing because it allows us to think about her for a couple of seasons, and there's so many ways that you could play around with that role, because maybe she's playing the long game. Maybe she's playing with Wilson Fisk and she wants to be in charge. It's interesting.
Yeah.
And the timing that she gets in, the timing that we see her, it's just quite fascinating when we see her in season 1 and season 3. The character we did not see, and I'm actually glad we didn't see her, is Electra. Not because I necessarily don't like Electra. I know that
she didn't fit.
She didn't fit. No, she didn't fit. She wasn't needed. It's not that I don't think that she's a good or bad Electra.
I like her character.
Yeah. She just wasn't needed in this series. I think that you have some opportunities later on to get into her in future seasons. In my opinion.
Yeah, we'll see. I think it's interesting because they didn't really say she's dead.
Nope. And we don't know what the future of the Hand in air quotes is, but yeah, we don't know because there's options to bring that back as well. And then, so it ends, basically, the series this time ends, the season ends with it going back to Nelson, Murdoch, and Paige. So, of course, they capture Bullseye, they arrest Bullseye, Fisk is arrested, Vanessa's not, he makes that deal, which I think it's just so fascinating. Again, that's part of that chessboard that I feel like Vanessa's playing the game of chess here. it's because really, like,
yeah, you could see her be a side villain.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised by that. I don't remember if the comics really address her much, but it's an interesting idea.
Well, Fisk doesn't usually have a love interest.
No.
So.
Yeah, and they did get married. They are married, so that's it. It's really fascinating what to do. And then the final scene is they are working on Poindexter's spine, and they talked a little bit about Captain, about what they can and can't do really with the wording here is important because they can use some words because of Disney and some words that they can't. But the final scene is the eye and a sort of design in a bowl. So we get the build that we're going to see Bullseye at a different high
He should be the main villain next season.
I would think that, yes, I think so. I think basically we can build that story. And in the comics, he gets into a pretty higher level. He's even stronger than what he is now. So what they're building is basically just my word, metahuman version of Bullseye, and that's where I think they're taking that. So that, I mean, did we miss anything? Pretty much, we covered a lot.
I don't think so. We covered a lot. How about the mom and dad
Maggie.
story?
What's that? I just wanted to cover Maggie too a little bit. But what did you want to cover?
Yeah, the mom and dad story.
Yeah, that was really the moment that, even though we know I knew who she was. Just that moment of him realizing that Maggie was his mom, and that whole backstory. I thought that was really compelling as well, and. Sort of you saw Maggie be what that mom and Matt relationship just really kind of rectify itself. And I just loved what Matt became at the end, even as he was hitting Fisk at the end. It's just, you're not going to take away who I am. That was just a great scene and a great moment. It brought us back to who Matt Murdock was. And Maggie's role in that, because she's just so patient in that, almost like a Holy Mary in this, if you will.
Yeah, and I think that also, we haven't really touched on it, but like Father's death was pretty big death.
Yes, it was it was a shocking, yeah. That was a shock that happened, but that whole relationship, that was really, yeah.
So now, my guess would be that the mom, Maggie, does sort of take on that role of being, I don't want to say the guardian, but like the voice that keeps him kind of in the middle.
Yeah. Keeps him
steady.
And which is a much different dynamic, too, because this is a mother-son relationship, too. So this brings us to a different level. But yeah, that was really well done as well. It was sad that when Litton died, when Father Litton died, that was really sad. But yeah, it was like really a catalyst to the turning point of like where the series went to. So, yeah. did we cover everything specifically on Daredevil?
I think we did.
Okay. So let's talk about the future. Of course, we teased this at the beginning. They announced on the Friday that they released Daredevil that Luke Cage was canceled, and then a week before Iron Fist was canceled. And it does connect to where they're going with Marvel storylines. First of all, what were your thoughts on the cancellations of both of those two series?
First off, I was not surprised that they canceled Iron Fist, because Iron Fist season 1, I didn't feel was up to snuff with the rest of the series, and I felt like a lot of people didn't really invest themselves in season 2, even though I heard season 2 is better. I still haven't watched it.
Season 2 was better.
Was better?
Yes, much better.
Okay, so that's good to hear. I don't know if the character is fully done yet, which I think we'll talk about. But and then for Luke Cage, I was sort of surprised because I liked both of the Luke Cage seasons, and I think it's a totally different character from what they have going on the Netflix platform with Marvel. And I really like the character, the actors, great supporting cast, great soundtracks, uniqueness to the series. I was disappointed that they canceled it on Netflix, but we'll see if they pick it up somewhere else. My thought is that with the Disney platform streaming service coming into the fold into 2019, that it's possible that even Jessica Jones and Daredevil get canceled on Netflix and that they pick it up on Disney. I'm not exactly sure. I feel like Netflix is going to have to fight a lot to keep Daredevil on Netflix. But I think that might be where they pick those shows up if they decide to pick them up. It's going to be interesting, but I was sort of surprised with Luke Cage, not so surprised with Iron Fist. How about you?
I was really surprised with Luke Cage because I really loved where they ended Luke Cage. They ended Luke Cage in a very gray area. And was not necessarily. I think people were like targeting heroes for hire. And I know that this was creative differences. I don't know, and I could be wrong. I don't think that the creators of Luke Cage want to go to Heroes for Hire right away. I think that they want to wait because I think that there's more of a story to flesh out of Luke Cage than necessarily Heroes for Hire. And I think that was, and I think I would wonder if there was at least 2 seasons in their brain that they were going to go with Luke Cage before they go to Heroes for Hire. So I think that there's a fascinating story that you can tell with Luke Cage, and I do suspect that that's going to be. I think that there's a fight about where that platform is, but I think I feel like we're going to see Luke Cage again. The problem with Iron Fist was the casting of Iron Fist. I don't think that they got the right guy. I don't think he understood Iron Fist. I think that they went really nerdy to try to develop this guy into in season 2. Sort of this mentor. He didn't fit the role. You could even see in the Defenders that they really tried to split him off from everything with Luke and Jessica and Murdoch. He was sort of he became a damsel in distress. And I think the other thing is, I don't know if the Iron Fist character fits into the Marvel Defenders, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage genre. I think it's too corny.
I think it's different.
Yeah, and it doesn't really fit.
It doesn't have the crime element.
No. They tried to add that grittiness in season 2 a bit, but I just think that it just doesn't. I think that doesn't work. And I think in terms of the Iron Fist storyline, they were trying to avoid Heroes for Hire a bit too, because where they went with that. I mean, I think that they might try to bring back Iron Fist, but I think they're going to have to recast him, in my opinion, because I think they miscast that. What I'm interested in is what happens with the potential of the Daughters of the Dragon, which is Colleen Wing and Misty Knight, because I do think that there was a story that they developed there. In season 2, I know you didn't see it, but they really put Colleen in a very different level. Like where they ended her, it's quite fascinating. So there's a story there to tell that I hope that gets told on one of those streamings. From my understanding, from what I'm reading, Punisher season 2 has been filmed So
yeah, Punisher season 2 has been filmed, and I think Jessica Jones season 3 is filming.
Yes, so those are already there. I think that there is going to be that battle between Disney and Netflix of which platform gets it and where they're going with the story, because with the Daredevil world, I'm just going to use the Snap hasn't. We don't know where the Snap is, right? Because they haven't addressed the Snap in
yeah, but they haven't even really addressed much, so
no,
don't know if we can say that it's. I don't know. It's
but my understanding,
it's not quite Flash Arrow universe separation, but it's getting close.
What do you mean with Flash Arrow?
Flash and Arrow and those shows, the Arrowverse as people call it, is not even close to combined to DC universe. Like, it's totally different. While the Marvel universe is supposed to be aligned, but we've never seen the other side actually address it.
Now, so I think it's going to be interesting because the rumor I'm hearing is Disney wants to get closer to where the Avengers are now. So that's where it's going to get interesting. But I'm convinced we see Luke Cage again. I'm not sure we see Iron Fist again. And I don't. Is there the appetite really for Heroes for Hire, or is there more of an appetite to see?
I would rather do Defenders too.
Yeah. But I don't know if I want to see Iron Fist in that Defenders season 2.
Yeah, maybe you pick up a different character.
Because you could do Daredevil, Jessica Jones, and the Punisher.
Yeah, you could add the Punisher instead of Iron Fist.
Yeah. And because you have the villains, you have...
And you could add Luke Cage.
Yeah.
I'd be down for that.
I'd be down for that too.
As long as you put a good motivation for Punisher, because he's not going to do it unless there's a good motivation.
Well, that was also the struggle with I think that was part of the struggle with Defenders. Is it was really hard to see Jessica Jones' motivation to be a part of that, and I think that was one of the weaknesses that I had. It's like, why is Jessica here again? I mean, yeah, she's funny and stuff, but I don't know if she really. It's tough, but who knows about that? So I think you got to flesh that out. But the big thing that came out, and I'm just going to play this for you, is the character that everyone in the Daredevil cast wanted to see.
Can I say Spider-Man now?
Yeah. Yeah! Fans would kill me if I didn't say Spidey.
What?
And there was some Easter eggs in the show as well. There was in the gym scene, you saw there is this poster. The poster you see is Parker versus Morales.
Yeah.
What do you do with Spider-Man?
I always felt that Spider-Man would be better as a TV show.
I do too. But
I said this a long time ago. I think we talked about this on one of your podcasts.
Yeah.
But I felt like they should have made Peter Parker that character, a Spider-Man, a TV show. Because I just feel like he has so many villains. He has so many very, I don't want to say, it's a very kind of, I don't know, it's not complex villains. Like, they're very simple villains. And I feel like they would fit a TV show landscape as well as just Spider-Man. And you could go through his high school life. You could dive into the characters more. There's such a big landscape to cover that it's very difficult to do in movies. And I always felt like Spider-Man would be well done in that aspect. But if they want to do Spider-Man on the big screen, Tom Holland, Peter Parker, and then separate it to Miles Morales on Netflix or whatever service they want to put it on, I think that would be another way of going about it. The only thing is they could also bring Miles Morales on the movies. That's totally up to Marvel Cinematic Universe, like what they want to do there. Because now Miles Morales is starting to gain some traction with the new animated movie coming out, which looks really good.
Yeah,
so
that does. But
it's interesting.
But they're playing with different universes. I don't know if you saw did you see Venom?
No, not yet.
Okay. I will.
They have a totally separate universe with Venom, though.
Yeah, but
they could always combine it. That's the thing.
Well, the animated universe is actually. I'm not spoiling much saying this, but the closing credits scene was basically a short movie of the new animated Miles Morales Spider-Man, and it's 3 different universes.
Yeah, well, animation can't be the same universe as live action.
Yeah, I know, but I'm hoping that I think that you can bring the Miles Morales character. I think it would be fascinating in the Daredevil world.
Because Daredevil has a history with Spider-Man.
Yeah.
As well as Wilson Fisk. If you guys ever watched the 90s animated Spider-Man show, Wilson Fisk was the biggest villain on that show.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you could definitely start him off, maybe Miles Morales start him off on Daredevil or something, maybe season 4, and then spin him off into his own separate thing, or I don't know what you would want to do there, because that's just taking a page out of what they've done before, and also what the Arrowverse has done, where they had like Flash kind of come in as Barry Allen, the investigator on Arrow for the 2nd season, and then they kind of just introduced him like that.
Yeah.
They could do that as well. It's up to them.
Well, they've already done the introduction of Miles Morales in the real world universe with Glover. So he was already in Spider-Man Homecoming. So that's already established. So, I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens after the Avengers 4, where they go. Because obviously we're going to get Spider-Man back.
And also it's going to be interesting to see how the Avengers 4 impacts like anything towards the timeline or the people involved, or like how could the snap and the reverse, like bringing people back, how could that impact the heroes and their lives? That's an interesting question to ask, because they have a lot of freedom with that.
Yeah. Yeah, and see, this was the problem. What they've done with Spider-Man in the Avengers world. I think
he's a B character right now.
Yeah, and
and it's sad.
It is sad because he's like I think Tom Holland is much better than Andrew Garfield in the role of Peter Parker and Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't like how they've latched him to Tony Stark.
I don't like how he's the B character. I always felt like, I don't know if I guess because he had his own movies, but like Tobey Maguire's character does not seem like he could be a B character to anybody.
No.
Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, or like even in the animation series and stuff like that, Spider-Man's always front and center. He's always like, if he's not the leader, he's like the main guy in terms of the story. Like the story is centered around Peter Parker. And maybe like Captain America takes the lead role, like as the leader per se, but like you have Spider-Man as the main focus of the story. I just don't understand, because that's their most popular character. No matter how many times they can reboot it, no matter how many times they can repackage it, put it on a different actor, whatever. Tom Holland's a good actor. Maybe part of it is that he's young, and it's hard to do that. I don't know.
Yeah, I understood the decision to go with Tom Holland was really for the younger demographic, but I think, to me, Spider-Man fits more in the Defenders universe than he does in the Avenger universe, because there's some grit to it. But they really, I think that what they realize, I think my speculation is the Andrew Garfield version of Spider-Man didn't bring out the comedy that the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man did, and Tom Holland nails the comedy aspect of Spider-Man, but I don't like. There's no.
But the drama is missing.
It's totally missing. Yeah.
Which is, in my opinion, more important.
Yeah.
But maybe they could. I don't know. Maybe once, if Iron Man dies or at least retires, maybe he puts Spider-Man in a position, and maybe Black Panther and Spider-Man become the Captain America Iron Man of the team going forward.
Well, there is also...
That's a very interesting question with Marvel in general. How do they go forward? Because I'm almost certain Captain America is not going to be there.
Yeah.
Iron Man is probably not going to be there and as big of a capacity. And then Thor might be there, but I don't know. Like, they're going to have to move forward in a total new generation, which we've never seen a movie, series, universe, anything go forward with a total new cast of A stars. Never seen that happen.
Well,
So-
Emily Blunt from Ant-Man and the Wasp is suggesting that one of the things that they may do is an all-female Avengers with Captain Marvel, Wasp.
I feel like that would be totally different, though. That's, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
because they are going forward with the, what's her name? Black Widow.
Yeah, they are doing the Black Widow movie.
They're doing the Black Widow movie.
And maybe she becomes sort of the mentor. See, I'm predicting at least, I think Iron Man dies in Avenger 4. That's my prediction. I'm not sure if Captain America does.
I think Cap is going to be the one to die. I think Iron Man's more questionable to me.
Well, see, I always remember back in the first movie, he was the one that made the choice to sacrifice himself. It was Iron Man.
Yeah.
It wasn't Captain America.
Maybe they both die.
It's possible. There's talk, of course, they've got Loki is confirmed for the Disney to do a series with him. So I think, well, that's obviously background because Loki's dead and he's not coming back for Avengers 4. That's my understanding.
I think the interesting question is going to be what do they do with the X-Men characters? Because obviously Wolverine could be a star.
Yeah, they've botched that, eh?
Well, they haven't done anything with it yet, so let's wait. I actually think X-Men as a TV series would be amazing, too. Because you have so many characters as well.
Does Hugh Jackman play a role in this?
I don't think so.
Who do you get for Wolverine, then?
I would go with... see, this is the thing. They already cast the perfect person as Wolverine, as Venom. So that's the issue.
I know. I actually think he would have been a better Wolverine than he was a Venom.
Yeah, me too.
And they got a long way to fix that Venom Spider-Man storyline because they're not even in the same city. But who knows?
It just seems like, comic movies are going everywhere now because, like, DC's doing the same thing. They have, like, 2 different universes, and they're, like, semi-rebooting or something. I don't know.
Cavill and Affleck are out as Superman and Batman. I don't know where they're going.
Well, Cavill's going to be, like, a top 3 action star, I guarantee it, in, like, the next 5 years.
Yeah,
And, like, they have that Joker movie coming out, which looks awesome. But that's a separate universe. And then they have Aquaman's new trailer looked really good, actually. And
Shazam.
And Shazam as well. So that's in the main universe. But it all depends on what they do with Flash. So, like, all these movies are, like, everywhere.
Yeah,
it's hard to know, like, what's going on.
Yeah. I may sit down and watch the Justice League again today because I kind of am trying to figure out what they've done with that universe that is so...
Well, I think I don't even know if that movie's going to matter in the long run.
I mean, I think that they want to hitch their wagon to Wonder Woman because that was the box office hit.
Well, yeah, they're still coming out with the 84 movie. 1984 Wonder Woman movie.
Right.
I think that's next year, but they have Aquaman coming out soon.
Yeah,
and they have Shazam coming out 2019, and I think they're still waiting on Flash to get the perfect thing done, which I don't blame them, but I still think there's an issue with the actor, but that's just me.
It should be
Grant Gustin.
It should be Grant Gustin. I mean, it just makes sense. I mean, yeah. And I'm not a big fan of Grant Gustin, but I think he's better than what they have.
I love Grant Gustin. I think he's a great actor, but that's just me.
I mean,
yeah.
And then you still got the Supergirl storyline.
I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what they're doing. Because now CW even has the rights to Batwoman, because Batwoman's going to be in the crossover of the Flash show, Flash Arrow Legends. So they're going to introduce Gotham. So I don't know what's going on with DC. And for the first time in a long time, Marvel is kind of in the air too. Like, they don't have a clear set path like we've had for the last 10 years.
But I feel like Marvel's world is more organized.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But, I mean, there's a lot of questions regarding what's the future going to be for Marvel.
Yeah.
Who's going to be the stars? What franchises are they moving forward? Guardians is in the air. What are they doing with, obviously, Spider-Man and probably Black Panther? They'll get 3 movies out of.
Yeah.
But, like, I think a lot of it depends on Avengers.
Well, it's going to be I think a lot of it also is going to depend on Captain Marvel and how that movie does.
Yeah, I don't know about that one.
I loved the preview.
Really? I did not.
Oh, the music was like it just really, I was really excited.
I just don't know if I'm sold with the actress.
I am. I think she'll fit well, but that'll be interesting about where they go with that for sure. Because I think what Captain Marvel will set everything up for where they go next. But they have options, right? If Captain Marvel doesn't work, you can go with Black Panther. And it wouldn't be such a bad
I think
thing.
Black Panther would be a better leader anyways.
Yeah. And then you got Guardians of the Galaxy. I know that the next one is supposed to be more focused on the Zoe Saldana character than it is the Chris Pratt character. So there's some interesting stuff. Marvel's in an interest. I feel like Marvel's in a good place and DC's in a mess.
Yeah, maybe.
Because they'll have to recast Superman and Batman. I see Batman as John Hamm. I think he would be the perfect Batman.
He just might be too old.
Well, that's what they said about Ben Affleck, though.
Yeah, but Ben Affleck, I want to see the prime Batman. That's me. I want to see prime Batman. Like, 32 years old.
Fair. I just don't know. Well, I mean,
maybe it could be someone random.
Yeah, they could bring in a new voice. I think Henry Cavill will be a loss for Superman. I mean,
oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, as much as the movie didn't do well, I don't think it was Henry Cavill that was the problem.
And I still like Man of Steel, so
yeah, I didn't mind it. Yeah, I thought, yeah.
I think the bigger problem was the director.
Absolutely, yeah.
But he's gone now, so
yeah. No, they booted Snyder out of all of it, or
yeah, he's gone.
That'll be another interesting direction that they go. But is Scorsese directing the Joker?
Is it Scorsese's movie?
Because it's DiCaprio, right?
No, it's not.
Oh,
it's,
no,
Joaquin Phoenix.
Weren't they doing? Was it DiCaprio involved in some way?
No, they were talking to him about it, but it's Todd Phillips is the director.
Oh, okay, he's good.
Joaquin Phoenix is one of them, and Robert De Niro is also in it.
Oh, really? Oh, that'll be interesting.
Yep.
That'll be really fascinating. Well, we've covered a lot. Did we miss anything here? Or?
I don't know. What else do you want to talk about, Kevin?
Well, what's going on? We've got some NFL content that you're live streaming.
Yeah, at the Bottom Line View, you can go subscribe if you want. We do NFL. If you're an NFL fan, I definitely suggest it. Kev Wool's on there from time to time. We do live reaction videos, fantasy football if you need help with your team. We pick every week. We do live news videos. Upcoming this trade deadline, so I'm sure there's going to be a lot of breaking news. So head over there for everything NFL, the Bottom Line View. And if I'm plugging my Twitter, you can follow me at Mitch Milani, Milani.
Yeah, the NFL trade deadline is going to be one of the most fascinating trade deadlines that has happened in a while. I will just say that. But
well, they've already made like 4 moves.
Yes. Yeah.
So.
Follow me, KVOLE, Spreaker, where all the podcasts are, KVOLE. Subscribe on iTunes, Agree or Disagree the Podcast. Twitter, KVO, as I said, Facebook, Kevin Olenick, Instagram, YouTube, etc. Good discussion, man. Thanks for coming on.
No problem, man.
All right, and other things that are going on, we will be talking about Halloween and finances. How do they connect? We're going to connect them next week. We're also going to talk about social media and a cannabis summit that's coming on. We'll talk to you all very soon. Bye for now.